Now I'm having problems with my. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to this week's Muslim Street. You're here with Malik Aziz, and also have my co-host, Dr. VIBERT ISSA White. He'll be joining us through audio for this very important topic. This is a series that we're going to do, which will eventually collaborate in a major paper and or a book. How Europe and America and Israel control the Muslim world. Basically, how the West took over the Muslim world. We kind of want to start the first, excuse me, guys. We kind of want to start the first half of this session discussing periods. We're going to do this in two periods. We can continue to discuss this issue in the context of two periods. The first period being 1884, where the Europeans, to be 1884 to 1953. The second session would be 1953 to the present. In order for us to put context, a historical reference, and other things that are going on in history to the takeover of the Muslim world. This is a interdisciplinary study of how that happened. It'll include geopolitics. It'll include war. It will include sociology. And also include history to understand this. So the first period, 1884 to 1953, or really cutting off at the Nakba in 1948 to really give a basis to this. So as Dr. White, I want to welcome you to the show. I don't think we have Dr. White on audio yet. If you can check that out. We produce here at the Muslim Street Podcast out of Ghana by the Lance Scurv Show, who engineers this. So Lance, if you can work on the audio connection of Dr. White, we really appreciate that to get him included in this very important conversation. A conversation that here at the Muslim Street, we think...
well, he's connected. Let's get a sound check from him.
Yeah, Dr. White, are you with us?
Hello?
Okay, great. We'll bring you in a second. I was just kind of setting up the context of the program, and I'll call on you here in a second. So this period and or this first segment of the discussion tonight will kind of contextualize 1884. There was a very significant event that not only affected all of Africa, but the entire Muslim world. And that is the Berlin Conference, where the Europeans sat down and they carved up the world. And it entered into that period of history in the late 19th century, European domination, again, of the entire Muslim world. And we're also going to talk about how that happened, who were the players, the rise of Zionism as a concept during the same period in the late 19th century, which brings us to where we are today. We say, as Malcolm said, that of all of our studies, history best rewards our research. Out of all of our studies, history best rewards our research. And what is meant by that? Brothers and sisters, if you don't understand how we got to the point where we are now in terms of white supremacy and world domination, it's historical context to it, you'll just be talking out of your feelings. Not only that, it will not allow us to prepare properly to defend against it and to defeat it. right? And let us understand that the declaration of what happened in 1884 when all the European nations sat down and they carved up the world. That was a declaration of war on Africa. It was a declaration of war of this new reality that they created, they being the Europeans, called the Middle East. Subsequent to just a couple of decades prior to that, the late 1860s, there is no concept of the Middle East, none. This is a made up geopolitical construct by the Europeans. It literally came out of their own hat for them to understand their position in the world vis-a-vis the economics and the geopolitics. So let's get that clear, especially to you people who like to go on social media and talk about, well, Jesus was a Middle Easterner. All right, he was not. All right, so Jesus was of African descent. We can prove that any day of time. So, Dr. White, as we set up what I call a very critical period in the history of the world, the Europeans and their rise in colonialism, it gives us a basis to understand where we are now. What do you think about that? What do you have to say about that? Still have some audio issues with Dr. White. So as he pipes in, let me move on. So the Europeans get together in Berlin in 1884. They take a map of the world. They carve up Africa. And in them carving up, the Europeans carving up Africa, they had no regard. Dr. White, are you trying to get it? Yeah, some audio issues.
Let me take care of this first.
Yeah, Dr. White, are you with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, just having some audio issues. I want to apologize to the listening audience and tell Lance if we can get that corrected offline. I really appreciate that. But going back to the Europeans and them sitting down as a European body, just emerging a few centuries with the emergence of the nation state concept. They also have gotten fat off the European slave trade. Stop calling it the transatlantic slave trade. This is a historical misnomer. It's a European slave trade. They're the ones who benefit off of it. They're the ones who started it. They're the ones who profited and built up Europe off of it. Call it what it is. The European slave trade. Dr. Yosef Inyanakina used that terminology. Dr. Khalid Muhammad used that terminology. Dr. Conrad Worrell, other scholars, Dr. Anderson Thompson use that terminology. Stop calling it the transatlantic slave trade. It's the European slave trade. They're the ones who got rich. That triangle created where they took free labor as cargo out of Africa, our ancestors, took them to South America and North America in order to use that free labor to build resources to ship back to Europe. That's the triangle. And those nation states got rich off of that, right? So that brings us to, during the post-slavery period, the Europeans, again, in their expansion, they colonized the entire world, the entire dark world, right? 1884 is very significant. But Dr. White, the European colonialism moved into the Muslim world fairly unopposed. This is critical. Some resistance, but to understand why that happened, we really have to go back a long way in history to understand geopolitically and understand political theory as it relates to one question. And that one question is, for the Muslims, after the passing of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the question comes up is, who should rule? Who should rule the Muslim world? So very quickly, there is this, after the passing of the Prophet, there's what is called the Great Fitna, the Great War internally with the Muslims. And there's three fundamental groups that arise. The first group are Ahl Sunnah, or what is now called in the lexicon, the Sunnis. The second are the Shia, and the third are the Khawarij. Three fundamental groups fighting for who should rule over this one question. And the reason I say that, and I'm going to fast forward all the way to 1884 on this, I have to make this historical reference to that issue because the Sunnis won out. They won out, and they're interested in stability, whereas the Shia and the Khawarij, as colonialism comes in 1884, they're still existing, but in small pockets. They're not accepting this European colonialism, right? So going back to the war where the Sunnis won out, there are pockets in history where you have the century of the Shia between the 4th and 5th century of the Hijra, where the Shia are the rulers, but they're moderate. The Ja'faris and the Fatimiyas, they're the ones who build the University of Al-Azhar in Egypt. It's not the Sunnis, but again, they're very moderate, right? There's this intellectual and academic integration that's going on that feeds great debate amongst the four madhabs. And it's a very interesting period, but it's short-lived. What is long-lived, as we fast forward to 1884 and the Europeans, Dr. White, is that the Sunnis are in power, but they are interested in stability. They self-define vis-a-vis the non-Muslims, whereas the Shia, as well as the Khawarij, they self-define vis-a-vis the Sunnis, right? So this relationship literally still exists to today. And to make a point, as I jump to present time, who came, and I asked the question, who came to the aid of the Palestinians, who are surrounded by Sunni governments, the Emiratis, the Kuwaitis, the Qatarians, the Egyptians, the Saudi Arabians in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. None of them, to this day, has came to the aid of the genocide that's going on in Palestine. But who did? It was the Shias, Hezbollah, right? The Houthis in pockets in Yemen. They are Shia. The Iranians, Shia, because they don't like the present relationship. The Sunnis, in that they self-identify with the non-Muslims, are only interested in stability. That's why we move from colonialism, post-colonialism, into what? Neo-colonialism. And that's literally what exists today. So we want to kind of jump over that. Again, Lance, do we have Dr. White? His audio check, how's that coming? If you can give me an update on that, I appreciate it. And Dr. White and Lance, as he gets his audio discrepancies cleared up, please just jump into the conversation. Now, so 1884, a significant period in understanding how Europe, how the Europeans and the Americans who get into imperialism a little later, very grudgingly, really after during World War I, they kind of pushed into that action, right? And then, of course, the emergence and the rise of the Zionist state later after World War II. This control of the Muslim world has to be understood from a historical perspective of how we got here. What is going on in the Muslim world in terms of this question that I posed after the passing of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as who should rule the caliphate, right? Who is the caliphate of the Muslim world during this period? It's the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, Istanbul as their headquarters, right? So the the Europeans particularly, and they act as a brotherhood as they move into World War I, and I move into this period of around 1915. The British, they see that the rule of the Ottoman Empire or the Caliphate has to be defeated, has to be disassembled, and they go to work in order to do that. So they attempt through a campaign at Gallipoli to take the capital of Istanbul, which was the former capital of Christendom, going all the way back to 4th century Roman Empire. They fail at this. So in their failing at it, they come up with Lance and Dr. White with a tactic, really a military tactic, because we have to understand that they are at war with us, right? They come up with a tactic of divide and conquer. So they say, okay, what we're going to do is that we're going to arm the Arabs. This is a neo-colonialist move. The British, carved up the Middle East for themselves at the Berlin Conference in 1884. They say to the Ottomans and to the Arabs who don't like the Ottomans at this point that their rule has to go, right? So they arm the Arabs to take over and defeat the Ottoman Empire, but it backfires, right? So what happens, and all this is in the context of 1915 to 1920, World War I. And essentially what happens is that the Arabs, they turn out to be fierce fighters, and they undermine the Brits, and they take Jerusalem, they take Damascus in an attempt to create an Arab kingdom, right? So the British, they counter with joining the French, and they eventually defeat both forces, the Arabs as well as the Ottomans. So the Ottoman Empire falls. And to this day, why is that so critical? Dr. White and Lance, the fall of the Ottoman Empire is critical because it, for the first time, leaves the Muslim world without a leadership group, or what is called the Caliphate. This goes all the way back to the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. While he was alive, there was no question of who the leader is. No question, right? After his passing, the Great War comes out, but we had initially a period of what was called the Khalifa Rashidin. These are the four rightly guided ones. There is his best friend, Abu Bakr Sadiq, who becomes the first of the Caliphate. The second, Umar al-Khattab becomes the second Khalifa. Third, Uthman al-Affan, and the fourth, Imam Ali. So this succession is defeated in 1920 with the fall of the Ottoman Empire. So this is critical because here we are over 100 years later, and the Muslim world is still fragmented, and there's no Khalifa. And when the British defeated the Ottoman Empire, this has been a long reigning thing. So then we move to another period where do we get the framework that we have today? And it's a very critical period that we look at, and that is the Brits. They kind of foster the emergence of King Faisal and the Arabs. They then create this Arab kingdom in order, as well as during the same period, they create the different provinces along with Basra, this creation called Iraq. Prior to that, there's no Iraq. There's none. All right. And if you look at and the configurations of what is what and who is who, you will see so much European influence that is counterintuitive to history and his explanation that it will
Hello?
wound you. Yes, Dr. White, do we have you back?
We're trying to get you in live, Brother Malik.
Dr. White, do we have you back? Let me know when he's back, Lance, so we can continue, and just have him jump in. If you can send
Yeah,
him
we have massive problems over here. So we have him in, but we're not hearing him now. So
Yeah.
we're having a lot of problems here. But continue on.
Yeah. So that brings us to the point I was making about maps, geopolitics. The victors have redefined the entire world. If you look at ancient Ghana, ancient Mali, ancient Egypt, ancient Sudan, they have no relationship to current maps. Just kind of wipe that out of your minds. These are maps that were created in 1884 by the Europeans. The Middle East.
Oh wow, yeah, there's nothing behind the map.
Can you put that on mute, Lance, please? And if you look at the current Middle East, we have to look at these maps being kind of tattered with World War I, World War II, to the present. So there is a lot of interesting things that are going on in, but all of that is an expression of European domination, right? So we have the emergence of King Faisal in the Hijaz. He is appointed by the Brits to take over what you now know as Iraq, the southern part of it. He's not Persian, he's Arab. So this creates a significant issue there. So as we go along, I want to circle back to the Zionist movement. Remember, we're talking about how Europe, America, and Israel control the Muslim world. At the same time, and all this is going on, the Berlin Conference, 1884, the late 19th century, this movement amongst the Europeans, and this is pre-World War II, pre-Holocaust. There's a movement that emerges called the Zionist movement. Theodor Herzl and others, they begin to respond to this anti-Jewish fervor that's going on in Europe, and to say that they want a homeland. And what would have been, as we move forward to World War II and the Holocaust, is that they should have found a homeland, or should have been given a homeland inside of Europe. They are Europeans. They're not from that region. They have no DNA whatsoever from that region. So who are these people? Historically, they're converts to the religion of Judaism. That conversion took place in Europe, not in the so-called Middle East. They have never been there. It took place in Europe. I'll say it one more time. It took place in Europe. It took place in Europe during the 7th and 8th century AD. And this is significant because of the lateness of this, right? So again, fast forwarding to the late 19th century and the emergence of the Zionist movement as a concept, the Jews are seeking a homeland because their European brethren don't want them. And understand this is a religious political movement. Zionism is. It's not rooted in quote unquote the Torah, but primarily they create their own religious texts, particularly that they're going to follow the Talmud. All right. So Theodor Herzl and the Zionist movement, they began to gain strength moving into World War I, 1917, where they negotiated by who? Lord Balfour and the British. Remember now, it is the British who control the so-called Middle East through what happened in 1884 at the Berlin Conference. They carved that up for themselves, right? So the British, under this British mandate, they hand over Palestine, which is under British colonization, to the Zionist movement. And not only is this criminal, but it leads us to what we will see in the 20th century and into the 24th century as the biggest problem vis-a-vis war. Now, let me go back a bit to point out that also, and this is very significant that you understand this, that two things. One is that I said that the Europeans should have given them a homeland if they were having such a problem with their own European brethren, right? A homeland inside of Europe. What would have been a great place for that? A lot of the scholars historically have said Austria. Why? Hitler is Austrian, right? Austria is home, for them. They should have given it to them. They could have carved out and created this situation that they have now in so-called Israel, and it would have been a European problem, right? So you had European, Jewish settlers from Brooklyn and Philadelphia, like Netanyahu and his people were from Poland and all these places coming in to Austria and fighting amongst themselves as opposed to creating a genocide amongst the Palestinians. Well, over 400 Palestinians are killed in this current conflict. And it's not even a conflict, it's a genocide. If it was a conflict, you have two sides going against each other. There is but one side in this, financed by the United States of America and the American tax dollars. We want to be clear about that because once we understand white power, they're not confused at all. You have to understand Zionism and Americanism in the context of white power and what happened in 1884 at the Berlin Conference. All of their brothers sat down at the table, right? They bring the Americans into the game of imperialism late World War I, all right? And they took off from there. They're all brothers in this. You have to understand that. If that is not your paradigm, you're looking at it from the wrong angle as you fight this enemy. And if it's not your paradigm, you're looking at it as if, they ought to be ashamed of themselves and give up some aid in Gaza. Oh, look at the kids. Listen, this is about white power. And you're pleading to the consciousness of white power to stop what they're doing is a fail. And it tells me that you're only interested, you're not freedom fighters, you're not activists. You're only interested in carving out a little place for yourself inside the white power construct that's comfortable. And that goes for the black petty bourgeoisie too. And that is spelled out clearly as you look at democratic power politics vis-a-vis blacks in America historically and their support of Israel. Hakeem Jeffries, Jasmine Crockett, who was on the payroll of the Zionists through a back channel with honorariums and speaking engagements. You got one congressperson in Tennessee, nearly $3 million on the payroll of the Zionists, right? Black. This is your the Congressional Black Caucus. Major fail. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House out of New York, doing the bidding of the Zionist interests. Cory Booker, black senator out of New Jersey, inside of the Senate, doing the bidding of the Zionist lobby. Kamala Harris, prior to her being named vice president, did the same thing when she was in the Senate. We also know that while she was vice president, she was on the payroll of the Zionists to the tune of $3 million. And we already know where Donald Trump stands. And whatever the Israelis have on him, other than, that they financed his campaign in 2016 to the tune of $100 million. We already know that. The Alderson family out of Las Vegas. And again in 2020 and again in 2024. He's into them for nearly $400 million. Not only that, they wrote his Middle East policy. Zionist, period. Donald Trump, scumbag. Joe Biden, I'm a Zionist, scumbag. Kamala Harris, scumbag. Barack Obama, on exit, while he was lame duck, didn't write a check to Black America for $30 billion. In October of 2016, on exit from the White House, he wrote a check to the United States of Israel for $30 billion. The hell with giving you reparations for 310 years of free labor to this country. Don't care. The black petty bourgeoisie is on the take. Now, and that I don't get off topic, I want to go back to this period, and this is the kind of the wrap up of the first segment of how Europe and America and Israel control the Muslim world. Post-colonialism, we see something that's going on inside the Middle East, where again the British control the Middle East. They put the House of Assad in place there. That is a controlled operation. They put the Qataris in place, the Kuwaitis in place, the Emiratis in place. So to understand why there is no real threat from the Sunni Muslims in those countries, as they see their own Muslim brethren get Holocaust by the Europeans, and particularly the Europeans of the Jewish religion in so-called Israel, they do nothing. And don't expect them to do anything. They're only interested in, again, what I said from the start of after the passing of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that is stability. They're looking to get along with the non-believers. So, just want to wrap up that this incident called the Nakba took place late 1947, culminated in a war in 1948 that chased the Palestinians like vagabonds from their own land. Which ended in Israel taking over, or the European Jews taking over 78% of the land of the Palestinians. Over 750,000 Palestinians forced to flee their homeland, and they've been fighting an uphill battle since 1967, 1973, with some engagement from Sunni countries, particularly Egypt and others, to come to their aid. But primarily, if we do not understand, this period, 1884 to the present, in the context of white power, white domination, and then understand our position vis-a-vis that, we're wasting our time. You will not appeal to these people's consciousness because they don't have a conscience. You will not appeal to their hearts and hope that it would bleed, because their hearts don't bleed blood. They're vampires. They're killers. They're serial killers. In Israel's attempt with the support of the United States, historical support of the United States, in their attempt to create this greater Israel, clean Gaza out, move the settlers in, build houses, Landscurve, Dr. White, build houses on top of mass graves of the Muslims. You ever seen that movie Porter, guys? I swear, I pray to Allah, and this is the dua of the oppressed. The dua of the oppressed will be answered. That if they are successful in creating a greater Israel, I hope the biggest earthquake that comes into the world comes into that area and destroys it. Yeah. So, Lance, I want to close our show out, and again, we'll have Dr. White back next week to cover the second part of of this discussion, and that second part of this discussion, how Europe, America, and Israel control the Muslim world. We're going to start in 1953 to the present. Very interesting. Right at some very significant things that went on in the rearranging of any forces that could compete and fight off the Zionist American control of the Muslim world. The use of coming out of colonialism into neocolonialism, right? So no longer are the British and the French and the Germans and the Portuguese dominating as colonial powers. The names are Ahmed. The names are Jamil. The names are Muhammad, doing the work of the former colonial power. So, and this is very, 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 very significant that we understand this. This war is about worldwide white domination, white power. And Donald Trump represents not an enigma. He represents this false power. And as we look at all of the, even the Western scholars have been writing for decades on the fall of America, the fall of the West, the fall of the last great empire, and that's the American Empire. Paul Kennedy writes about it in the book of Rise and Fall of Nations, going all the way back to 1988, where he talks about the military-industrial complex and the expansion of the military to support the expansion of imperialism as a failed model that caused the fall of other empires, the Roman Empire. It caused the fall of the VIBERT states. It caused the fall of even the Ottoman Empire. So this is a very interesting concept. These are some of the things that are on our side. There are other forces that will allow us to celebrate. Just be patient. But at the same time that we be patient, we have to be vigilant in our raising of the consciousness of the people. And as you can see, I talked to Lance, and this is the last thing I say, the consciousness, even in this country, people whom you would never have thought would oppose America and this cabal, so-called Israel, are raising up even amongst their own people, their own media, people like Tucker Carlson, who's a white racist, who hates Black people, okay? Now, in his consciousness on this issue over in Israel, there's some breathing room. We also see it amongst a Black conservative by the name of Candace Owens, another Black person who's dripped in Black self-hatred on this issue over in Gaza, in the Muslim world. She has raised her consciousness, and she's attacking America. What I'm saying to these two forces, that you will see the next step come out of that, and the next step out of that, particularly in the case of Candace Owens, that she will put down her Black self-hatred. We see it also in the consciousness and the rise of the Black petty bourgeoisie. If we go to, and one of my favorite cases to understand this is a person by the name of Amanda Seales, an actress, an entertainer, but also a trained academic and a scholar in Pan-African studies. She's smart, intelligent. She was under the influence of the Black petty bourgeoisie during the Obama administrations and that first Biden run for presidency. And then Gaza, as a catalyst in her consciousness, turned her on. And once you turn on, there's no turning off. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in. So I would say, as you see, to the extent that you can support, please support, particularly people like Amanda Seals. Follow her on Instagram, follow her on Patreon, support her with your dollars and cents. These are the people whom we have to come out. And when I say these are the people, I'm talking about the Amanda Seals type people. I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, right? Candace Owens hates Black people, but she loves the Palestinians now. We're just hoping that she can make that extra step later in her consciousness. But when she was at PragerU, she led the financing of a documentary to turn George Floyd into a criminal. I mean, why would you do something like that? So there is some toba and repentance that she's going to have to make to the Black nation. But I want to, at the same time, applaud her for being steadfast on this issue of exposing the United States government, the Congress, and exposing Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, and the rest of them who have capitulated in this genocide. Again, thank you. We'll see you next week. This is the Muslim Street. Lance, I want to thank you for producing the show on the Lance Curve Show. We'll get Dr. White back next week. And say to all of you, begin to reframe this discussion. It's 1884 to the present. Really understand the latest threat of white power, because this is about white world domination. Thanks for listening. See you later.